Welcome, friends, to the Mindful Heart Podcast. My name is Randy Saketa, and I'm your host of this space to expand your consciousness, raise your vibrations, and assist you through your spiritual and wellness journey. Remember, this is your journey, but myself and my guests will give you the tools, guides, and encouragement towards being your best self. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at mindful_heart_podcast, as well as Facebook at the Mindful Heart Podcast. And please leave us a review on iTunes so that we can share this healing space with others and spread the word about this amazing journey that we're on. So much love to you today. Let's jump right into this. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Tonight here, we are going to chat with another Mindful Heart celebrity. One of my favorites, Abke. We're going to dive into law of attraction again and how you can change your perspective with your thoughts and change your life. You know, there are stories out there about people who have healed their eyesight, their hearing, their looks. Not that you can heal your looks, but you know what I'm saying. Weight loss stories. They've healed cancer. They've healed sickness. All of this with just the power of their thoughts. So we're going to dive into that with Erin. I was going to say tonight, and then I got distracted. Anyway, the washing machine's running. It distracts me for whatever reason. All right, so we're going to jump right into this with Erin. Erin, welcome back.
What's going on, Randy?
You know, I'm just here to hear your wisdom that you have for us tonight.
I'm flattered.
You know, we're going to drop bombs like we always do.
It happens, you know?
So,
as one does.
Yeah, especially with you, yes. So, first of all, I just want to say that before we started this podcast, we were talking about basically what we're going to talk about, and that's controlling your situation with your mind. And I was saying how I have this girl at work who's going to Florida for 4 days, and she's having a fucking anxiety meltdown in the bathroom at work today, just over the fact that, like, the travel. She's like, what if the plane crashes? What if I lose my luggage? What if? She's having a meltdown. And we were talking about how, I mean, she's already projected that this is going to be like a terrible trip. Everything that can go happen wrong will go happen wrong because she's already projecting that into the universe.
Yep.
And there are stories out there of people who have healed their eyesight on their own. They've healed cancer. They've healed disease, illness.
Oh, yeah. I know people that have done that.
Exactly. So I want to talk about that. I want you to get into that
Yeah, we'll get into it.
How you can create your reality just by the way you think and what you think.
I love it. I'm all about it.
Yes.
Well, the thing that hangs most people up with law of attraction is that they like being victims, you know?
Yeah.
Like being a victim is comfortable because it's familiar. It's the state of consciousness they've been living in. And so, you know, people don't like to hear the fact that you are always choosing your preference in every moment, right?
Right.
Whether consciously or unconsciously, but even to say unconsciously, you're still choosing it because until you get fed up enough with it, you know, people sort of don't realize that they actually like suffering. They actually like their anxiety because, again, it's comfortable or familiar. It's become an identity for them. And so they're consciously generating it all the time. And, you know, this becomes a program that's in the subconscious mind, a pattern, you know, that keeps repeating itself because the universe is just reflecting you. That's all it's doing. The only reason that the physical universe exists is to reflect consciousness. And so it's the same thing as if you imagine looking into a mirror and you're frowning into the mirror, you know, how would you change the frown you're seeing in the reflection? Do you try to walk over to the mirror and start changing it, you know, with your hands or something? That's not how it works. You have to change internally. You have to smile yourself, and then the mirror smiles back at you, right?
Yeah.
And that is what this universe is. Your state of consciousness is being reflected back to you 24/7. And so You always know exactly what your state of consciousness is based on how you are interpreting your life experience. Because even to get a little deeper on this subject, you actually never experience a circumstance. You never have experienced a circumstance, and you never can, because it's mechanically impossible to be done. You can only experience what you have to say about it. You can only experience your ideas about it. But circumstances themselves are actually just smoke and mirrors. Smoke in the sense that they are illusory by nature. Even from a quantum perspective, we know that all matter, we've never actually found what we call matter. We only find these buzzing strings of light popping in and out of existence in bizarre ways. And, physicists are like, well, we can't really consider that real, but in the way we think of it. So, everything is one interconnected happening all the way back to the Big Bang. You could almost think of it like the Big Bang is still banging, right? And you and I are part of that bang. And so there's really no borders or boundaries to reality. There's nowhere you can divide and say, this is where that thing stops and this thing begins, because everything depends on everything else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everything is completely interconnected. And so to take one piece out would throw everything else off, and nothing could exist without everything else existing too. We could look at this practically, right? Like, if you remove one small ingredient from your and mine's environment, we're bye-bye,
Right.
Let's just take 50% of the nitrogen out of the atmosphere. Oh, bye-bye, you're dead. Gonzo.
Yeah.
No shot. So we live with this illusion, or this almost like hallucination, that we are separate from reality, that like I'm a separate individual self over here and the universe is out there. But in reality, you're just as dependent on your environment as you are on the organs inside your body, right? Like, you need the air outside of your body as much as the lungs inside your body. You need the sunlight as much as you need your heart. You need the water, the moisture in the atmosphere, just as much as you need the blood circulating in your veins. You equally die without any of those ingredients being present, right?
Right.
And so, in understanding the concept that the universe is just reflecting you, your own subconscious mind is the exact same way. Your subconscious mind doesn't have like an agenda, like it's not quote unquote looking out for your best interest, because it's not an entity. It's just like a storage system. It's part of the brain, right? Mm-hmm. You are the entity. You are the observer, and it's up to you to choose and dictate what gets stored and what doesn't. And how do we do that? By where we place our attention.
Yes. And like you said, I mean, I feel like, especially in this person's case, she wears her anxiety like a blanket. It's like her, it's like her comforting blanket, like a 2-year-old has a blankie. Mm-hmm. Because that's her identity, and that's how most people look at it.
Yep.
That's their identity. Mm-hmm. And people don't think they can change their identity.
They don't think they can change anything because they think they're victims.
Yeah.
But again, you are always choosing what point of view you adopt about a circumstance, right? You can't ever say, like, let's say you and I go out to eat or something, and like a car accident happens next to us. Police reporter comes and says, can you please tell me as the witness what you saw today? And like, I'm going to say, oh, well, the event started at this time because it was when this person walked across the street, which sent off the car to the left side and crashed into the other car. And then you might say, oh, the accident began when I heard the car collide and I looked over. Okay, so which circumstance is the correct one?
Neither. They both are.
Or both, because it's a interconnected string of events that goes back to the Big Bang.
Right.
If you take any string of events that happened from the Big Bang forward out of that, the car crash doesn't happen. Right? So there is no actual circumstances that you experience. You only experience your projection about them. You experience your perception about them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right. So what kind of point of view you're adopting, what kind of preference you're seeing in circumstances is the mirror, is the reflection of you. The circumstance itself is a smoke, but it's also a mirror because it's showing you what your state of consciousness is like. So positive, high vibrating, energetic, loving person perceives everything through that lens. And then a pessimistic, angry, anxiety-ridden person always perceives everything through that lens. But in reality, they've actually chosen those lenses. They weren't handed them. The circumstances have never dictated anything to you because, again, there's nobody there. You're always choosing what you see. And so when you choose something in particular, then your subconscious mind stores that and goes, oh, okay, this person likes this point of view. Let's create a filter here and now allow them to see other circumstances through that point of view.
Now, how does one go about shifting this point of view?
Great question.
Because let's be honest, even though it is a choice, it's something that's ingrained in you that you've been choosing for so long that you can't just one day wake up and be like, I'm going to be Mary fucking Sunshine now.
Nope.
Yeah.
You can't, because you have built this hardware in your mind to keep generating this perception for you. So like you're wearing a pair of orange sunglasses, you're walking around seeing the whole world is orange, and everyone else around you is going, dude, the sky's blue, man. Like, you're totally tripping. It's not orange. And you're like, no, I'm seeing it right now, because circumstances reinforce themselves, right?
Yeah.
Points of view reinforce themselves. And so what you have to do is to begin, if you want to change your perception of anything, if you want to change your state of consciousness, then you have to begin seeing what you choose to see. Because, again, there's nothing actually out there other than your projection of it. So if you don't like the projection that your subconscious mind is now generating for you, then choose to start ignoring it, sort of, in a sense, choose to become blind to your circumstances, and then generate the perception you would rather have, which is one of positivity, right?
Right.
And like anybody can look at their life experience and know that this is absolutely the truth. It is undeniable. You always see what you are. When you go through a traumatic experience, let's say that, like, same example, let's say that you get hit by a green car you're bicycling down the road, you get hit by a green car. Well, now you have a PTSD program in your mind that makes you have a trigger when you see a green car.
Right.
But before you got hit by the car, you didn't have that trigger. You never even noticed green cars.
Mm-hmm.
So which perception was the correct one? Should you have always been triggered before the accident by green cars? No. It became condensed into your frequency after that experience because you gave it a huge amount of attention. And where you place your attention is where you place your energy. So you had this traumatic experience. Of course, when something like that happens, you're going to give it a lot of attention. But until you know that whatever you're giving attention to is what's getting stored in that filing system, then, like, as soon as you understand that that's how it works, then you develop this sort of natural reflex to where whatever feels bad, whatever's a circumstance or a feeling you don't want to have, you start to naturally just sort of ignore it. Mm-hmm. It's not that you pretend. It's not like you're stuffing your fingers in your ears and curling up in a fetal position, going la la la, you don't exist, because that's resistance, right? You just acknowledge that it exists and then go, yeah, and no, thank you, that's not for me, right? Just a kind, appreciative no, thank you. And then the mind is very good at this, and you can start doing this with your own thought patterns, even like, let's say you have insecurity or jealousy or some kind of thing that keeps popping up for you. Well, become very aware of that program, and then every time it comes up, say a very sincere no thank you to it. I'd rather not have that experience anymore. I'm going to now turn my attention to something else that I do resonate with. And when you start doing this practice really, really quickly, you start noticing how when that program does come up, every time it appears, it has less and less velocity behind it, because it's being drained of energy slowly, right? So the only reason it has that punching power is because you gave it so much attention in the past and you energized it, right? But you are in the driver's seat. You're always in control, and you can always have what you want. So if you have, like, your coworker, for example, she's kind of in a rough spot because it sounds like she's been, him-hawing and energizing her anxiety for so many years to where now it's like everything she does is an anxiety trip.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah.
So she still has the power to disintegrate those patterns if she wants to, but she has to first take responsibility that she's not a victim to them, and she's actually created them, and she has to start not giving them attention anymore. So even though they have a lot of emotional power when they appear, right? Like, The emotion sort of demands us to give in to them. But that's because that's the way it is designed. It's a very intelligent system. You have thoughts, feelings, and actions, and they work in like a cyclical pattern. So a thought appears. If you give the thought attention, then the thought tells the emotional body to give you a feeling in one of the 7 chakras, energy centers of the body. And then the feeling spurs you to take an action on the feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is to complain, to cry, to have a whatever. And when you act on the feeling, you strengthen the pattern.
Yeah, it's like a parasite.
Yeah, in a sense it is.
Yeah.
But even that, it's totally neutral. Like it's not judging either way, good or bad. It's just giving you whatever experience it thinks you want.
Right.
And in a sense, you do want that experience, because if you truly didn't want it, you would ignore it, right?
Right. Right.
In the same way that, like, if someone is trying to sell you something on the street, hey, would you like to have some? You walk through the mall and people are pestering you. What do? Do you start arguing with them? I don't want to buy this piece of shit. Like, that's the worst thing to do, right? Because that's what they want. They want to get your attention, get you in a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Then
they can seduce you to buy it. You ignore them as if they're not talking to you, and you walk past them.
Yes. So that's what you have to do to those emotions.
That is what you have to do to your thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you don't want.
Yeah.
Because the universe just speaks energy, right?
Right.
It doesn't care if you say, oh, I don't want that anymore. Well, if you're still focusing on it, you're going to get it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Any energetic reaction is yes to the universe. And when you don't have an energetic reaction, the universe goes, okay, cool. They obviously don't want this experience, so let's not give it to them. Because imagine that good and evil don't exist for a moment. We get so obsessed with those definitions, but from the universe's perspective, it's just energy in motion, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not looking good or bad. It's just looking at energy. So in that sense, any energetic reaction you give to something is saying yes.
Even if it's a good reaction?
Even if it's good or bad. Because let's say that, like, the universe isn't judging you for wanting something bad. The universe is not religious, so it's not going, oh, shame on you, bad boy. You shouldn't want that bad experience. Sometimes experiencing something bad, is a very educational experience, right? Maybe I want to test out depression for a little bit and see how I feel about it. And then I learned that, oh, I really don't like depression. I'm going to not have that experience anymore. So, like, let's say you wanted to try that out. What would the universe be to say, no, I'm going to block you from feeling that feeling. You can't have depression. Sorry. Right? It doesn't do that. It allows you to have whatever experience you want. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, 100%.
So if you don't want it, ignore it, plain and simple.
To be neutral, which is actually something Abraham talks about all the time. Or what does she call it? Like going general, I think is what she says. Is how she puts it. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it's also in manifestation. We talk about that a lot as well, where to manifest something that you want, you don't sit around 24 hours a day thinking about it and stressing about it. You just kind of put out in the universe and let it go.
You can do it multiple ways. Like, all you have to do is be in alignment with it, which means to have your intention and your feelings about the intention be in synchronicity. So, like, if I want a better job, I need to just be in the joy and excitement of the job I want, right? And I can think about it and focus on it all day long, and that's going to work too. Or I can just sort of do a visualization, feel it really energetically, and then let it go. As long as I don't send up a mixed signal, it will be brought to me at some point.
Yes.
But I do believe that the more powerfully you do visualize it, the more powerfully you feel it, the quicker it tends to come. Mm-hmm. Because it's sort of like your desire, your passion for something is like the level of urgency to the universe. So if you just like want it a little bit, it'll probably take a lot longer to get to you.
Yeah, that's true.
Than if you're intensely passionate about it. But yeah, it's literally just about being clear about what you want.
So how does this translate into the physical, you can touch tangible thing? Because like I said, there are, especially in, the YouTube videos that I watch, the stories that I read, the books that I read, there are tons and tons and tons of people who have physically changed their lives. Not
Yeah.
just emotionally, which that does it as well, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like I said, cured cancer, sickness, all that stuff. I mean, I know my own story of healing was a physical one as well, one of them. So I want you to talk a little bit about that.
Like physical healing in particular?
Yes, because I think because I think if somebody's listening to this who has just started studying law of attraction, or has decided that they want to start changing their lives and creating their own reality, I think that what we've talked about so far is something very doable to some people, especially if they have the will to do it. I think sometimes the physical is very difficult to believe because we are that it's crammed down your throat, in the United States especially, that you can't heal yourself. The doctor has to heal you. Medication has to heal you. Chemicals have to heal you.
We live in this like inert, materialistic world where everything is already predetermined. And
Yes. And I am very interested in that. Like I said, I have my own story, you know, where I was overweight my whole life and I loved myself. I didn't give a shit. Like I was super happy with myself. And then I was really sick of feeling like shit. Like I felt like shit. I had inflammation. I had digestive problems. And while I did make physical changes, it's really the way I started thinking about myself that really did it. I don't care what anybody says. I started thinking, you know, but I'm not, like, I don't feel bad. I feel great. I started putting that out every day. And it was the feeling of it. And then I did feel great. And I used to say I couldn't do these workouts. I can't do high impact because I have knee pain and I can't do this and I can't run. I'm not a runner. And when you change that perspective, like I run 3 miles a day now.
Wow, that's awesome.
But you know, it's that mindset of I can't do it. I'm not a runner. I'm not that person. You change that mindset to, I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Empowerment.
Yes. I feel amazing. You know.
So here's a question to consider. What if there actually is no external reality, external to you reality? What if, like, as in a dream at night, everything in your dream is actually a projection from your consciousness? But you've placed yourself in that dream to purposefully forget it so that you could have that dream experience?
Okay.
But we all know that once we become lucid in a dream, we can then manipulate the dream.
Okay.
Right? We can start creating, become a superhero, fly around, do whatever we want, right? So what if reality, or this version of reality that we're in, this waking state, what if it's exactly the same way, but it's just at a much denser vibration?
Okay.
Like thousands of times denser. But what if the rules are all the same? What if the universe is not some disconnected pieced together fabric of dimensions that have different rules? What if it's one field, like quantum physics says, where all the rules apply equally, just at different densities?
So you can fly.
Hypothetically, yeah. But we're operating on, almost you could say, with a different rule set because it is such a much denser reality. But in the sense of, like, you imagine a dream at night, you're dreaming, you have some story happening, you know, you feel the feelings of it. But if you knew it was a dream, you would immediately stop taking it seriously. Right? So you purposefully veiled yourself, your conscious awareness of the fact that it was a dream. And then sometimes when you go lucid, or let's say you just wake up in the morning, you kind of go, wow, how did I have that whole experience that I never remembered that I'm actually, you know, Aaron, and that was just a dream. Like, I took it so seriously and I felt all the feelings of it, right? Well, like, what if you're actually doing that right now in this density, and you've purposely veiled your remembrance of who you actually are, your higher self, so that you could have this physical human experience, right? So the illusion breaks down when you become aware of it. And it's the rules of the density level you're in are dependent upon your unconsciousness of them. And once you become conscious that, oh, actually none of this is real, it's just a projection from my mind, then you start to be able to quote unquote manipulate the rules a little bit, even though you're not manipulating the rules, you're actually abiding by the rules.
Okay.
So with physical healing, we essentially, and this is, I mean, I grew up in church. My parents were pastors of an evangelical church where we had like these healing revival services every Wednesday night or Sunday night. And I saw miracles like you wouldn't believe as a kid growing up, like it was normal. And I actually healed a lot of people myself as a kid, and even growing up, teenager and in my 20s and stuff. Healing was like a normal part of my life. But what we thought healing was sort of like asking or begging God to do something for us.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if he's in a good mood, he does it. But you know, Jesus, who was a healer himself, he told people like, hey, your faith made you whole. Or he would tell his disciples, hey, you guys go and heal the sick. He never said, in my name, or he never said, go ask God to heal the sick. He just said, heal the sick. Because when we come into our full authenticity or expression of what we are as timeless, eternal beings of expressions of the source, then we will step into our true power, which is to know that we can generate whatever reality we want, but we have this collective agreement that sickness is real.
Yes.
We have a consensus reality we've built that says cancer exists, disease exists, et cetera, et cetera. And if we all collectively agreed that that's not true, that disease doesn't exist, it's just an illusion, then we wouldn't have disease any longer. But every sickness and disease manifests because there is a belief, whether it's conscious or unconscious. You know, we're born into this world, this society, right, where we just grow up hearing about cancer and heart disease and diabetes and see people that are sick. So we just believe, oh, sickness really exists. And so that belief allows later in life these diseases to begin existing in our body. But if we have the absolute conviction that disease is not real, then it can't exist in our body. And this is how healing works. A lot of times people heal themselves because they just decide that sickness doesn't have a right in their body anymore. They see the illusory nature of it, and they go, I choose to experience a healthy reality. And then it manifests. And are you familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza? I'm
not, no.
Oh, man, you'd love him. So he teaches this type of healing in seminars, and he's done thousands of hundreds of scientific studies on the power of the mind on matter. Another guy is Dawson Church, who's a colleague of his. They perform these experiments where they teach people how to heal with their minds, kind of through meditation, mm-hmm. where they basically imagine the person healthy, and they have like a 70-something% success rate at their academy. They get like 8 people in a circle around somebody. I think they call it the cage. They put the person in like a little, I don't even know, a container, mm-hmm. and then have like 8 people sit around that person. And these people are sort of trained at doing this. And those 8 people imagine the person, their cancer dissolving, whatever the case is. And they feel the excitement and the joy that feeling would bring, that reality would bring. So what they're basically doing from a quantum perspective is, the universe is infinite. There is no such thing as time from the highest perspective. Time doesn't actually exist. Everything is just happening now. There's just infinite possibilities. There's infinite parallel realities. And so we can actually have whatever reality we want by placing our attention in that reality. But we just have all of our attention in this reality because we're paying attention to our circumstances, right? And letting those circumstances dictate what we think and feel. So the reality we have tends to keep recreating itself. Does that make sense?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so when you step out of that way of thinking, way of operating, you have to sort of become greater than your environment, greater than your circumstances, and again, choose to become blind to those circumstances. And once you can consistently do that, you find that your reality starts taking shape of what you're perceiving really quick. And this is why so many people become obsessed with law of attraction, because once you experience it for yourself, you cannot deny that it's the case. Anyone who's worked their way out of a drug addiction or any kind of issue like that, they will tell you they didn't just stumble into sobriety, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They created that reality with their conscious attention and focus on it. They desired it, and they reinforced it, and they had to desire it more than they desired to be an alcoholic.
Right.
And then they shifted into that parallel reality. So you actually can't change anything that is, because what is always is. Every possible reality already exists and always will exist in the infinite potential of the one. So all we do is we shift through possible realities. So if you don't like what you're experiencing, then choose a reality you do like, because it already exists, and shift into that one with your attention on it. So step into it with your excitement. Imagine it, visualize it. What feelings would you have if you landed that job, right? Mm-hmm. And just feel the excitement. Oh, I would love that. And when you feel that excitement, that emotional energy, that is like the electromagnetic signature you send up. It's the frequency you send up to the universe saying, I want to tune into this radio station, right?
Right.
And then it slowly starts shifting you through those realities until you eventually manifest that job you want. And so the world that we see merely reflects our own internal frame of reference. The dominant ideas and wishes and desires in our minds. We are projecting reality. But when we look inside first and decide the kind of world we want to see, then we project that world outside. And it might take some time for circumstances to catch up because they're time and space bound, right? Mm-hmm. But you have a timeless place within yourself that you can access anytime you want with your emotions, with your feelings.
And, because I know you like him as well, Russell Brand, his newest book, talks about that. And he talks about it on his podcast a lot because he is a recovering addict. He talks about that a lot, how you have to create that yourself.
Yep.
And
it's all up to you.
And the 12 steps that he's a very big fan of, really, they just help you reinforce yourself and your faith in yourself, even though they are very quote unquote religious based, God based.
Right.
That's really when you break them down, like in his book, he dissects them and they're really giving you faith back in yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
The principles are universal, it doesn't matter what religion teaches them.
Yeah, but no, I completely get what you're saying, because I've done it before, and I'm sure people have done it before. They just don't realize it. Like, I've gotten a stuffy nose, and I'm like, I'm not sick. I feel fantastic. And that's how I leave it. I feel fantastic, and I don't get sick.
Mm-hmm.
I actually haven't been sick in a very long time.
Same.
Because I don't give it energy. I don't give it a thought.
Yes. It's it's like something that like you said earlier, you can't just like overnight change your perception, because it's part of your conditioning. And so you have to really get into this stuff and start to almost like play with it a little bit and start seeing how the more and more dreamlike you see reality as, the more and more it does, you experience it like it really is a dream. Mm-hmm. Even like your memories, how many times have you looked back at a memory and gone, man, did that even happen, or did I just dream that?
A ton.
Yeah. Because reality is a dream. All that consciousness can do is dream. There is no real or not real reality, right? A dream is equally as real as what we're experiencing right now. It's just at a much higher vibrational density. So it comes and goes quicker. It's more illusory in nature, whereas this is a very slow vibrational, thick density world that, things hang out a lot longer in time and space. But like if you take a time lapse, right, of like, a valley or a mountain over like 100,000 years, if you watch the time lapse, you would watch the mountains going up and down and trees appearing and disappearing and animals appearing and disappearing like Play-Doh, Mm-hmm. And that's just time sped up faster. And you go, whoa, that's crazy. It's like the world's made out of Play-Doh. It's just morphing constantly. Like, yeah, that is what it's doing. It's just happening slower, so we don't think it's amazing,
Yeah.
But it's equally as amazing.
Yeah.
So with Joe Dispenza, what I was getting at a minute ago is his testimony that got him onto this healing kick is really cool. He was a chiropractic doctor who he got in I think it was like a skiing accident or a motorcycle accident. He totally screwed his back up. And he had to get 9 fusions and all this stuff. The doctors were like, dude, you're going to be in a back brace for the rest of your life and stuff. And he was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go that route. And he had sort of already been getting into this idea a little bit earlier, but he sort of made a pact with himself and said, okay, there's obviously some intelligence in my body that is orchestrating all of the billions of chemical processes that happen every second. It's beating my heart, circulating my blood. It is doing billions of things simultaneously. And if I can somehow hack that intelligence and tell it what I want it to do, because it obviously has my well-being in mind, right?
Right.
It's keeping me existing 24/7. If I could tell it what I want it to do, maybe it would do it. So he laid face down in his sort of chiropractic table that he had every single day for like 2 or 3 hours. And he would just visualize his spine being healed, because he was a doctor, so he knew exactly what the spine looks like. He could reconstruct it in his brain, on command. So he would just go through this process and sort of reconstruct his spine. He said it took me about 9 weeks before I made any real progress, like internally, like it just wasn't clicking. But then about the 9th or 10th week, I felt like I got into this flow state, and I was like feeling my spine being reconstructed, and I was getting excited about it. And then after like 10 weeks after that, he walked into the doctor's office to get his scan, and they were like, we can't believe this, but your spine is completely healed. It's perfect, as if you never got into an accident. And so he made a promise with himself when he was laying on that table that he said, if I can learn how to heal my back, I will spend the rest of my life devoted to teaching people how to do this, how to heal themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he does now. And so, he talks about all these concepts I'm talking about in his own way. But yeah, the idea is like, he does it all through meditation, which is really cool because like anybody can do that. I've even done it with myself with like headaches and colds and stuff that. It's really cool. Like you can prove it to yourself. If you get into a meditative state,
mm-hmm.
Sort of zero out your thinking mind, which will be trying to reinforce your sickness, right?
Right.
Zero it out through meditation, and then imagine being healthy. Imagine what it feels like to not have a cold, not have a headache, and get excited about it. And, do that consistently. And you see that if you can actually do it, it goes away like that. It really does.
It does.
And once you start proving these things to yourself, you start to build that momentum of belief where you're like, oh, this stuff really, and you sort of start escalating things up a bit. I really like to do physical, like hands-on healing for people because that's what I grew up doing in church. And there's also a really great book on this called The Energy Cure by, I'm trying to remember the guy's name.
I've heard of it. I've not read it, but I have heard of that book, yeah.
William Benston, and he talks about, he does this himself. Joe Dispenza does this. Dawson Church does this. You basically lay your hands on somebody, and have you ever read The Law of One?
No.
Do you know what it is?
No.
Okay. It's a channeled work, but it talks about this concept of intelligent energy,
mm-hmm.
which is what the universe is made out of. Everything we see, the particles of light, photons, it's all intelligent energy that is responding to consciousness. And so you tell it what to do, and it does it in the most incredibly intelligent manner. And so you sort of direct this intelligent energy with your conscious focus on it. So you have to block out all thoughts of doubt and disbelief, kind of like Morpheus in the Matrix. He tells Neo, free your mind. He jumps over the building.
Right.
It's exactly like that. And I put my hands on someone. This is what energy healers do. Put your hands on them and start feeling, the excitement about healing them. Start visualizing with your imagination, let's say the cancer tumor dissolving. And actually, funny enough, cancer being one of the most serious illnesses that we experience is actually one of the easiest to heal. Cancer tends to be one of the fastest or easiest sicknesses to heal through this method. And so you imagine the tumor shrinking or whatever, and you'll notice that your hands start to get really, really hot. And that's sort of the cue for these energy healers, and I've experienced this myself. once your hands get hot and the person can feel them getting hot, you know that intelligent energy is rushing through and is starting to go to work. And so, sometimes it takes more than one session. It takes up to 5 sessions, a week or two. But in the book, Mind to Matter by Dawson Church, he talks about a few experiences he's had personally with people that had they were just ridden with cancerous tumors. Like they had trouble breathing, their lungs were full of them. They had weeks left to live. And they were like, don't go to chemo, don't go to radiation, because that stuff destroys your cells. What we want is your healthy cells. And we want to start telling those healthy cells to go, burn, dissolve, or eat, or whatever they do, the cancerous ones. And, radiation kill all of your healthy cells too. So there tends to be apparently a big correlation to people that don't get chemo and radiation get healed a lot easier, 10 times easier than people who've gone to radiation and chemo. But, he would do these treatments on this woman. I think her name was Lillian in the book. I read it a few months ago, but slowly but surely she came in every day looking like a little more bright, a little more happy and pep in her step. She goes to the doctor, a week later, and they're like, we can't believe this. There's no sign of cancer. This is crazy. And he's had this thing happen so many times. And, scientists don't like this idea because it forces them to have to kind of rethink their whole framework.
Right.
Of how, medicine and reality and how it works. And that's not, for scientists, it's not fun because they make their living off of the models that they have. So it's no wonder that materialist, reductionist scientists tend to reject this idea. But, Dawson Church and Joe Dispenza and William Benston and all these other doctors, they've performed hundreds of these studies proving that the mind really does affect matter. And if you want a really good expose on this, then you can read Mind to Matter by Dawson Church, or you can get on Audible. He just literally lists off dozens and dozens and dozens of these double-blind controlled experiments they do. They take Tai Chi masters and they put little dishes with radioactive decay matter in them, which have a very consistent quantum decay rate that doesn't change no matter what, It's actually the same thing that we put in clocks to tell time. Or no, sorry, smoke detectors. They have they operate based on a radioactive decay of some sort that makes them totally reliable. And so what they do is they take these Tai Chi masters and they have 3 dishes out, and they say, okay, we want you to speed up the decay in the first dish, slow down the decay rate in the middle dish, and affect the far right dish. And so they do this with stunning precision. Some of them can even say, I'll double it, and they can double it. Then they started experimenting with having them move a mile away and doing it. And they can do it just as easily. They moved this guy 1,000 miles away, and he was in some other country. They did it over Skype. And he affected the radioactive material exactly the same way. And so, it's pretty hard to deny that is real,
Right.
And why would you want to? Why would you want to not believe that we have the ability to affect reality with our minds?
Because it's easier to take a pill to do it.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's for sure true. The pharmacy industry does not want hands-on healing to be a thing.
Oh, God, no. Nobody does.
Yeah, it's in their best interest to not have that get out.
I mean, I say it. I've said it 1,000 times on the podcast. I say it 1,000 times a day in my life, that healthy people don't make money.
It's so true.
And if you have the ability to heal yourself, well, then you wouldn't go to the doctor, or you wouldn't have health insurance.
Yep. But people are already starting to not go to doctors.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't go to doctors.
Holistic medicine and therapy and healing is becoming so much more popular because, we've kind of seen through that game by now. Kind of a Ponzi scheme where they're just trying to get you on a drug. Mm-hmm. And the drug doesn't even really fix your illness. It just masks the symptoms of the illness.
Yeah. And creates other symptoms.
Yeah, exactly. I was at the gym today coaching a client, and we were laughing. There was some kind of medication commercial on, And, you watch these commercials, it's freaking hilarious because the whole commercial, they have to take up all this time to list off the side effects.
Yeah.
And it's like these horrible things. You're like, oh my gosh, why would you even want to risk a symptom that bad?
I know.
I think it was like a sleep drug to help you sleep. And it was like, ulcers and possible cramping and serious migraines. And in some cases, death.
I know.
Like, clearly we're fucking with the natural balance of the body if we're experiencing those kind of side effects,
Yes, and I've said it before. I think I've said it to you that I'm a firm believer, that if you believe it, it works.
Yeah.
So, that's how I live my life.
Mm-hmm. Well,
even if you believe that you're healing yourself, and if you believe in yourself, it works.
It works. It's, the placebo effect, right?
Right.
Even like militant, atheists, skeptic scientists admit that the placebo effect is real.
Right. Yeah.
So at least there's some trace of that idea that they do buy into, but I think they just can't seem to scale it out on a macro level.
Well, they don't want to, like you said. That would ruin careers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had I was telling one of my clients about the book Mind to Matter I was reading, where what he does in this one experiment was he takes one of his energy healers, and they injected 24 mice, 2 different cages that had 24 mice in them, with a very aggressive form of cancer. And they had done this many times, and none of the mice had lived past like the 18-day mark. Mm-hmm. They would develop these tumors, they would get really big, and they would die. So he would hold one of the cages in his hands for 15 minutes a day and just send them positive thoughts, think about their well-being, their healing, tumor shrinking, whatever. And the mice in the second one, the control group, were dead by the 18-day mark, and his mice had lived up to the 21-day mark. And that had never been done before. And so he kept doing it, and by day 24, their tumors started scabbing.
Wow.
And then after like 30 days, the tumors had shrunk, and by day like 42 or something, there was no tumors, and all of the mice had survived. And so he did this exact experiment, I think like 8 other times with like 8 other energy healers, and it was the same result every time. And I told one of my clients about it, and he was like, "Oh, are you reading a fantasy book?" And I kind of laughed. I was like, "Wow, like you really have that much trouble believing that that's possible."
But your clients, which I'm sure you can't say this to them, but they do it. They do it on a minute-by-minute basis, and I can relate this in the very basic sense, and I know that you can too, in working out. Very basic. So your muscle burns. And if you are committed to your workout, to your fitness, it's all in your brain, right? So you continue to go, you tell yourself it doesn't burn. I can work through it. I can get through it. And you get through it.
Mind over matter.
Mind over matter. They're doing the exact same thing. They just don't want to believe it on the bigger scale.
Yep. And it's always been the case.
Yes.
But we're just kind of oblivious to it.
Yes, it's true. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast, because I really want people to start opening their eyes and seeing that you do create your own reality. You make everything happen on a daily basis. And that means healing yourself from anxiety, depression, to creating the life that you want, healing your body, manifesting abundance, manifesting your perfect job, your perfect house. You can do it all.
Absolutely.
Just by thinking.
And you better start believing it, because if not, you're going to keep allowing your circumstances, you're going to allow other people's opinions and whatnot to create your reality for you.
Yes. Yes.
And, it's one of those things. It's kind of like the, what's that wager? Pascal's wager. You know what that is?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
It's kind of like Pascal's wager in a sense. It's like, okay, what's the harm in believing that this is true? If I'm right and you're wrong, then you are creating your reality and didn't know it. So you've been generating this horrible, nightmarish life, and because you didn't realize that you were the creator of your reality. But if I'm wrong and you're right, then, whatever, you were a victim like always, so nothing has changed.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
exactly. Have you ever heard of magicians?
No, I haven't.
Or magicians in general, let's be honest, because it's something that's always fascinated me.
Uh-huh.
And I find that people will not believe that you can heal a tumor on a mouse, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But people believe that a man can make an entire plane disappear. I bring that up because one time I saw it back in the day. I think it was David Copperfield. It was like a TV special where he made a plane disappear.
Yeah.
And people watch that and they believe that.
Yeah. What does that tell you?
It tells me, if you believe it, it's true.
Yep. It tells you that they like being victims.
Yeah.
If you're a victim, it's because you want to be a victim.
Yes.
It's kind of like, I always relate it to this because it's something we can all understand. It's kind of like a bad relationship.
Right. Yeah.
It's like if you actually don't want to be with somebody, you break up with them.
Yes.
Like we've all had a friend or known a girl who like was dating some horrible guy who kept like, either cheating on her or was just always looking at other women, and she would complain about it all the time. And what's our advice to her, right? We go, well, if you don't want to be with him, if you don't trust him, then dump him.
Right.
She said, well, I think he could change and da-da-da. And so, she keeps forgiving this guy and, okay, baby, I trust you. I'll forgive you. Oh, thanks, baby. I promise I'll never do it again. And then they go to Target the next day and she sees him checking out a girl again. She's like, really, again? He's like, oh, no, man, I was looking at the toothpaste. Right. So what happens when she finally snaps? She loses all sympathy for him.
Right.
And all of a sudden, all his boo-hooing and him hawing doesn't do him a lick of good. She's got that cold look on her face, and she's like, oh, no, you don't get it. Bye-bye. I have no more time for you. I'm done. But babe, come on, you know me, baby. Nope, sorry. Bye-bye. There's the door. Like she's cold. And that exact shift is what you need to make towards all of your negative thought patterns and feelings and experiences. Like, become exhausted by them. Become tired of having them in your mind. And they will go away. Because you'll naturally stop giving them attention.
Yes.
But some part of you is still interested in them if you're not. There's some part of you that kind of likes the anxiety or the depression or whatever because you're identified with it or whatever the case is. You want to get sympathy from people. And until you just cut that bullshit out and go, no, I'm like actually done with this nonsense. Then you start naturally turning your attention to what you like.
And that's with any change in your life. That's exactly how it happens. Addicts.
Absolutely.
That's how every major change in your life happens, is you become done.
Absolutely.
With wherever you are.
Yep. And that's sort of the grace point of suffering.
Yeah.
What suffering does for us, because like one of my videos called I Talk with God, I go to San Francisco and I chat with some homeless people. And the third guy I talk with is this heroin addict, super nice guy. Eric, Tim, I think his name was Tim. And I asked him on the video, like, I was like, so, he lost his job. He was a Silicon Valley tech worker making lots of money. He had a girlfriend, great job, but he became a heroin addict. And he was like a functional addict for a long time. He was working 9 to 5 and still making money and stuff, but eventually the drug addiction won over, right? Mm-hmm. And now he's this homeless guy living in a cardboard box behind a bus stop. And so I asked him, like, are you trying to get rid of your substance abuse issue, man? Or are you, what's going on? He's like, to be honest with you, Aaron, I'm not, because bottom line is I like getting high. And so I know I'm not ready to give it up yet. And that was like a really striking statement to me, because I'm looking at this guy from the outside in, this totally objective view that, like, dude, you are wearing the same clothes you've been wearing for 4 months. You smell like a dead rat. You're sitting on a cardboard box behind a bus stop, begging for food. You look like hell. What about getting high do you like more than you hate this?
Yeah.
It's crazy. But until that heroin addiction makes him suffer enough to go, no, I really want to get clean now, then he won't. Because you always have what you truly want,
Well, exactly. Exactly. See, the wisdom you just imparted on us. Mic drop.
Hopefully it'll stick for somebody.
I hope so. I don't think for my coworker right now anyway, but
Maybe not yet.
I definitely hope so, because I know it stuck with me, and until you experience it for yourself, until you believe in yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you have going on YouTube right now?
Oh man, I got all kinds of fun stuff. I started a new series called Mind Science 3 weeks ago, where I am covering things like what is the ego, what is the function of the ego, how can we transcend the ego. I just did a really fun episode tying it into The Matrix, because there's just, there's so many amazing parallels in that movie.
Yeah.
And then I have my usual ones going, Moving Backwards series, which is kind of about like coming out of religion and into spirituality and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have Empower Hour, which is like law of attraction, sort of like self-empowerment, what we're talking about now. Perception is creation, all that stuff. And yeah, it's just like, I just want to put this stuff out there, and I'm getting such amazing feedback from people. I feel so grateful for the amount of subscribers I've gotten lately. People are just resonating with it, because I try to present it in a different way that people haven't heard before. Because there's so many manifestation gurus on YouTube and stuff.
Right.
But a lot of them are kind of just saying the same stuff. And so I like to try to think outside the box, or just maybe phrase it in ways, put pictures, movies, videos, things people can relate to, analogies that make it click for them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really fun for me. So I'm doing a lot of that on my channel, because there's almost nothing you can do to help people more than this. I
agree. And your Empower Hour is like my favorite series. I love that series.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I watch almost all of them. Because it's like the short, I do it in the morning. That's what I like to do. It's my morning routine.
Yeah.
I like to spend my mornings doing my best that I could do.
Yep.
Like I meditate, I work out, and like I listen to you or Teal Swan or a podcast or Tony Robbins or Russell.
Love Tony Robbins.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like really hardcore loving Russell Brand lately.
Dude, he's my favorite.
Like he's just he's just amazing.
He's a gangster.
He really is. And even Joe Rogan, I fucking love listening to his dumbass. He's, you know what I love about him? People always rag on me about him because he's an asshole. And I'm
he's not even.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, but
he's
actually
so nice.
He isn't. He's so open because he interviews everyone from every walk of life, every race, every career, everything.
Political, yeah.
With an open mind. And he has intelligent, awesome conversations with them.
Amazing conversations.
Yeah.
Obviously what he's doing is working, right?
Oh, I mean, obviously. Yeah. Actually, he had Ron White. You know who Ron White is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had him on recently, and I was like, that's weird. And it's funny because it was one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, Ron White's really funny.
Yeah, and really smart. Like, he doesn't come across that way, but he's, like, super smart. And I love that he's a hardcore alcoholic, and he's like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic, and I love it. He's like, yeah, I drink whiskey from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed.
Dude, comedians are like, they just burn both ends of the candle, you know?
Yeah.
But they're super smart people. Like, you can't be a comedian to be dumb.
No, I agree.
It's a different type of intelligence, you know?
I agree. Is there anything else, any other wisdom you want to impart before we close this up?
Just to put a bow tie on it, I would just say, start believing it, you know? You don't risk anything by believing it, but you risk everything if you're wrong and you don't believe it, you know? When this clicks for you, that you are in control, you're not a victim, you know, your emotions are the highest source of wisdom you have access to. You know, if it feels good, if it causes you to feel abundant, that's because it's true. It's a point of view that reality has about itself. And if you feel negative, like you're lacking something, missing something, that's because that's not true. It's not a point of view reality has. You know, these kind of simple truths, they will literally change your life, man. I mean, overnight. Mm-hmm. Your quality of life will skyrocket when you start taking control of it. So, yeah, get into it, man.
Yeah, I agree. Take fucking control of your own life. I agree.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Aaron. This was awesome.
Thank you,
usual.
Randy.
This was awesome.
As usual.
And thanks, guys, for listening. I'm sure Aaron will be back. So
for sure.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.